Gamer Ahmer here. So today we're going to go ahead and talk about some on-rail light gun games for the Nintendo Wii. Now this particular style game has actually been one of my favorites since I was younger. I grew up playing a lot of games in the arcades, and I would love playing these light gun games. And actually a couple of these I remember playing growing up, so it's great that they ported them to a system. And I was really excited to go ahead and play over these games and try them out. So let's go ahead and take a look. First, you'll see this Nintendo Wii console in front of me, and you'll see this gun attachment right here. Right on top, we have this standard Wii controller, and what plugs into it is this Wii remote. So together, you have this gun attachment, and the trigger is actually here at the bottom, and it has this pretty sweet little compartment right here where you just wrap up the cords, and it just snaps right back. So it's easy to go ahead and hook up these controllers, and it makes it a lot like the arcade machines where you just have a simple light gun and you can go ahead and play these games. Now when I actually tried out these games, I attached the controller just like this. You can always hold them the regular way, you don't have to have this attachment. There's also plenty of other third-party attachments out there where you can just hook up the Wii remote or just attach it. And the other neat thing about this light gun controller right here is that it actually works on any standard television today. You don't have to go out and buy one of the old CRT televisions like other previous light gun games required. So you can use it on any modern television today, and you just point it right at the screen and it works. So the first game that we're going to take a look at right here, we have Dead Space Extraction. Now this game is pretty awesome. It's actually a lot more frightening than I thought. So you would think for the Nintendo Wii, you wouldn't think of having Dead Space on the Nintendo Wii, but this game is actually really awesome. I enjoyed the gameplay. So on the back here it says, rip enemies apart using the Wii remote. The saga begins in an all-new prequel. So this is actually a prequel to the Dead Space games that were previously released before this. And this says, prepare yourself for the most cinematic action horror experience on the Wii. And they weren't lying when they said that. This game had such a great story to it. It was one of those where you pick it up, gives you a little bit of background on the game, and then you start getting into battle by shooting these enemies. Now, the cool thing about this is that they're pretty crazy looking. You're actually a space colonist and you fight against these necromorphs, which are actually mutated corpses of humans. So this was pretty creepy. It reminds me of Resident Evil and House of the Dead games. So this was pretty sweet. It had a lot of different options in this. It wasn't just one of those pick up a gun and start shooting. It had a little bit of background to it and a little bit more options, and it actually played very well. So I highly recommend trying this Dead Space Extraction game for the Nintendo Wii. You can also find these pretty cheap. A lot of these they still sell in used video game stores. And then next up we have this Resident Evil, The Umbrella Chronicles. I highly recommend this game. This one was also another horror shooting game, similar styles to House of the Dead, and this one is pretty sweet. Once again, you have that preset path where you just keep shooting as many enemies that cross your path. It's pretty sweet with this controller right here. You just shoot all of these undead creatures and mutated terrors that rule the streets. There's hordes born of Umbrella's botched biowarfare research. Now the mysterious corporation must prepare itself for the oncoming apocalypse. You have no choice. Gather your firepower, prepare to face horror, and uncover the dark truth that could take Umbrella down forever. Succeed, or there's no future. So this game was a lot of fun. This is one of those just gun and go games. I really love this series, so that just added to this game. I thought the graphics were pretty sweet on this. They put a lot of detail into these monsters of creatures. So I highly recommend this one, and this one is pretty cheap, so if you see it, I'd pick it up and add it to your collection. And then moving on to Resident Evil, The Dark Side Chronicles. This game is actually a prequel, so this one is along the same exact theme. There's an outbreak of these monsters, which are your enemies. There's a virus that goes viral and infects everyone, so you have to go ahead and work your way through this path and just shooting everything in your path. So this is another great game, and I just love the characters that are in Resident Evil. I've played them all growing up, so this one I highly recommend as well. And it's just a great game, great storyline, and great for those just gun and go games. And then on to the House of the Dead 2 and 3 Returns. Now this one right here is an exact remake of the classic arcade machine games. So you have House of the Dead 2, House of the Dead 3. And I remember playing these on the arcade machine. So this is pretty sweet to go ahead and port it to the console so that you don't have to go out and try and find one of these arcade machines or spend as many quarters trying to continue lives. So I really enjoyed this game. This one, instead of having a full-on storyline that you had to begin with, you just jump right into that run and gun, and you just continuously shooting all of these enemies in your path, and you try and save all of the hostages. So this was a pretty great game. It's definitely one of those that has a lot of nostalgia to it. It brings back a lot of memories for me growing up in the arcades, playing these games, and I just really enjoyed it. And as you guys remember, it also had these enemies, and it would lead up to that boss battle. So on here it says, destroy hideous bosses across 12 levels in 2-player co-op mode, blast the Scourge with the rapid fire Wii Zapper, over 6 terrifying gameplay modes. So there's a little bit more to this than just the arcade version. So I really had a lot of fun playing this game, brought up a lot of memories, and once again I recommend this. If you can find it cheap enough, then I would pick it up. And then moving on to the House of the Dead Overkill. So this one is a first-person shooter light gun game. Now this one is different than the arcade version, the House of the Dead 2, the House of the Dead 3. This one is pretty sweet. It's definitely one of my favorites. I really enjoyed the gameplay, and it had a whole different appeal to this game. It was a whole different style than the previous games listed, and I really enjoyed this one. So once again, there's mutants, there's gory gameplay, there's vulgar language. These games are just over the top, with violence, and it's really a lot of fun to shoot all of these enemies, and especially this style game. And I really enjoyed the combo option that this game offered. There's extreme violence, hardcore violence, ultra violence, and psychotic. And going on with the gameplay, on the back here it says, plus see things you never imagined. So some of these monsters and enemies that you go after, they're just so over the top, they're so creative, and there's so much detail to them. It's just a really great game. I highly recommend it. And it went along with that style of creating sort of a movie into a video game. On the front here it even says The House of the Dead Overkill, starring Special Agent C and Detective Washington. It says in color. This is like something out of a video game. So I really like that idea that they went along to try and have that style going with this light gun game. And then up next we have this Sin and Punishment Star Successor. Now this is actually a sequel to the Nintendo 64 game, Sin and Punishment. Now a lot of people actually do not know about that game. Now this one is a little bit different than some of these other light gun games for the system. Now this one you can actually move around. You can jump, move left, move right, look around, and it's a lot different than some of these other ones because usually you're just in this straight path. You don't really have the option to go ahead and look around, move around a little bit extra. Now there's still a preset path that you have to follow, but it's pretty neat that you can go ahead and see your player move back and forth across the screen, pick up some extra items along the way, and you actually see them battling head-on against the enemies that you're taking on. So this one has pretty great graphics. I really enjoyed the detail that's on the screen, and it really just adds to the overall gameplay by having such a great background, great environment, great characters, and it just really makes this game even more worthwhile. So I would highly recommend picking up this game. It's another fun on-rail shooter, and it's definitely pretty sweet with the swarm of enemies that come out and trying to get those multiplier bonus points for the gameplay. And then up next we have Ghost Squad, which is another arcade classic. Now this game is one of my favorites in this whole pile of games. It's a lot different than some of the first games where they were extremely violent. They had gory gameplay, they had scary looking characters. Now this one is a bit more realistic as opposed to the zombies and mutants and the other style characters that you've seen in these other gameplays. So on the back it says aim, shoot, duck, and reload. So essentially you are in this Ghost Squad. So this game, it's overrun with terrorism, and the UN goes ahead and creates this Special Ghost Squad, which stands for Global Humanitarian Operation and Special Tactics Force. So you have to go in and wipe out these enemies, and it's pretty interesting. There's a couple different options that you can do on here as well. You run and gun and use a little bit more tactics in this instead of just being out in the open. You're kind of ducking behind tables, ducking behind walls, kind of using a little bit of that tactical advantage to help in combat. And there's even some spots where you can defuse bombs, and it's pretty sweet because you can go ahead and save a bunch of hostages, and there's a little bit more to the storyline than just running and gunning. But I highly recommend this game. If you can find it, I will pick it up, try it out. So next up we have this Arcade Hits Pack. And this actually has 2 arcade game classics in it. So you have Gunblade New York and LA Machine Guns, Rage of the Machines. So these games are pretty sweet. I had a lot of fun playing these styles. It even shows on the cover here some arcade machines where you have those machine guns. Now these ones are a lot different than the other ones. There isn't any reload in these. You literally just start running and gunning the second that you start playing these games. So in here you're actually flying in a helicopter and you just continuously shoot with your machine gun at all of the enemies, trying to go ahead and destroy as much stuff in your path. So these games are actually really great. It says take your guns to the sky in this exciting 2-for-1 arcade classic game pack. Target, chase, and destroy robot invaders alone or with a friend over America's most famous cities. Add a Wii Zapper to the mix for ultimate arcade shooter fun. Now the graphics on these games aren't the best, but the second game that's in this set actually has a lot better graphics than the first game. So the first style game has those non-realistic style characters in it. Brings back a lot of memories to playing those Virtua Fighter games back on the Sega Saturn. So definitely has that nostalgic feeling to it. And these are pretty fun games if you just want a quick little run and gun, continuously shooting at different enemies. And it's a little bit different every time. You want to keep beating your high score and try and shoot a little bit faster each time, lock onto those targets, and continuously move. So on to the last 2 games, we have this Target Tare game. Now the cover actually looks a lot different than the actual gameplay. Now on the back here it says take aim at terrorism, experience the ultimate arcade light gun shooter at home with Target Tare, featuring justice mode, unlockable mini games, and non-stop action, where you have what it takes to step up to the challenge and protect the nation. It also has 10 levels of non-stop action with an extensive arsenal of weapons, and there's even a justice mode, wield 2 guns and obliterate the enemy. So these enemies are a totally different style than the enemies in these games. It just looks a lot different. This one was probably one of my least favorites out of this whole stack right here. And this one, I believe I paid a little bit more for than some of the others. I would not recommend this game. Now you are free to try it out, especially if you enjoyed this arcade machine. But it just has a whole different feel. It didn't really step up its game for the Nintendo Wii, and it was just a whole different style game. And the last game here, we have Mad Dog McCree, the Gunslinger Pack. Now this actually has 3 games in one. So you have Mad Dog McCree, Mad Dog 2, The Last Gold, and The Bounty Hunter. So this style game is nothing like these games here. This is the first live action shooter on the Wii. Now if you remember these old style games that were on the Panasonic 3DO and the Sega CD, it was literally a bunch of recorded scenes where you had actors acting out these scenarios. So this is pretty different. There's not a whole bunch of shooting in these games. So you watch a scene, and when the enemy presents itself, you have one shot at going up against them and shooting, so you have to be quicker than the enemy. I unfortunately kept getting shot at when the enemy presented itself, and I ended up dying several times. I just couldn't get used to this style. I remember playing it back in the day. I wasn't too much of a fan of it, so this style game is not for me. It's not like those run and gun, quick-paced light gun games that I'm used to. It's nothing like any arcade versions. There's not a lot of action in this game, but I had to pick it up just because I've played these before on the older systems, and I remember these from back in the day. On the back here it says, only one gunslinger can stop a mad dog gone wild, and that's you, partner. When the ruthless outlaw Mad Dog McCree goes on a rampage with the nasty pack of wanted fugitives, they leave death in their wake. Relive the gunpowder glory of the Wild West in this collection of 3 classic Mad Dog McCree arcade games that will leave your Wii remote smoking. Now, I actually found this game pretty funny. I thought the acting in it was definitely wild. Now, it's nothing like these games, and I would try to steer away from this game unless you were a fan of these growing up. Maybe it has nostalgic value to it, but for me, this was my least favorite in this whole pile. So to go ahead and wrap it up, a lot of these games are actually still available at GameStop. You can find these anywhere that sells used video games, and especially the Wii. You could probably find these on tons of different apps, on eBay, online. So if you come across some of these games, I would definitely pick them up. I highly recommend playing these light gun games on the Nintendo Wii if you haven't already. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and check out my other videos and comment below on what you thought.